This is Frank Rodriguez Villela, and I want to show you how to convert your standard classical guitar to a contra guitar, which plays an octave lower than standard guitar. And we'll be doing this by using, obviously, the Villela lower octave string. When you open your string set, you'll find everything will be sealed, and you'll have number beats for each string, 1 being the thinnest and obviously 6 being the lowest. We'll start with the 6th string, and it's basically the one that's more crucial as far as intonation. In each particular set, you'll have a little chart, and the chart is basically telling you how everything is to be placed on there. It depends honestly on the compensation of your bridge and your saddle. So what happens is on these, remember, you have a 4-inch taper on one side, and you have the 6-inch taper on one side. The 6-inch or the long taper goes to the headstock, okay? And then the actual 4-inch taper goes to the bridge and the saddle. In this case, we're using a regular 6-hole standard classical guitar. Okay, and I start with the low string just to show you the importance of how we have to put the low strings, basically the 6th string and the 5th string. So what I do is I just go ahead and wrap it through. Now, if for some reason the compensation is not, if you actually put the string on the heavy gauge and it doesn't tune up, what you'll have to do is you'll have to sort of unloosen it, the string again, and then just go over the saddle. And that will be where possibly your guitar will intonate. It's not true of lots of times you're able to put it on this particular, on the heavy gauge side, but there might be an intonation problem. So you'll have to sort of feed the string back through there and just make sure you adjust it with the taper over the saddle. It depends on the compensation. For this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place it as we maybe already checked it, and the taper is better. Taper is probably your standard, where lots of standard guitars are compensated, but it works again very good also with the heavy gauge on there. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to put the string with the taper on there. So I go behind the actual the string or the taper, and then I basically tie it, make sure it's nice and tight. Now I'm gonna go underneath it, so I'll go underneath once and I go underneath twice. So I'll do, it's basically the same thing. It's twice on the actual bridge, and then I just tie it, just the way you tie any good shoe, if you still have shoelaces. Okay, so now the actual string is placed on the bridge with the taper on the saddle. And then I just go ahead and wind it through, just the way you would do a normal saddle or a normal peg when you feed the string through the peg. And I always go through the inside. I'm going from the top, and I go down. And then I feed it back through here. I feed it back through the open side there. Okay, now what I want in this case, it's sort of nice to have the taper. So I want maybe about an inch and a half from the peg. This taper is going to be basically an inch and a half long. Here, what I do is I wind it up. I actually wrap it once. That's one. Then I do 2, and then I do the 3rd one there. So now I have 3 wraparounds the actual taper. And the only thing I do is I actually hold this taper. This taper I sort of pull while I'm actually winding it up. As I wind it up, I'm pulling, but it's helping the string sort of stay in line. It keeps it in line, and it keeps it to be just evenly wrapped around the peg, which is sort of nice. It's a nice thing. At the end, the taper is a nice thing to have because you're able to control the string better. In this case, on the actual nut, I don't have to widen it. The string is particularly designed to create create a contra guitar without having to widen the actual slots on the nut, which is sort of nice. You don't want to do, if you try to go too low, you might fret out. So it's designed to have that particular design where it just sits on top of it. So don't feel bad. You don't have to. It's really meant to just lie on top. Okay, now the first one's on there, and so as you can see, taper's there, and now I'm gonna say it's in tune. Okay, and I generally start with here first, and then what I do is I like to go ahead and I'll continue and then put the first strings on. And remember, all of these are classical strings. So here's the first string, and so I'm just basically just did this just to get this over with, and I don't have to move or anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and feed again through the bridge, and then I'm gonna wrap around, so it's gonna be behind the actual string, and I'm gonna wrap around right around 2 times. So I'm gonna go 1 underneath, and I pull. I always pull because that's just something I like doing. So I pull, and then another one underneath, and oops, sorry about that. So then I push it through, then I pull, and now same thing. Now I have that little, so it's wrapped around. Now for the little strings, I tend to do this. I like to sort of uncurl the string, so I just do this. It's not a big deal. You don't have to do it. I do it out of habit. I think it's sort of nice to uncurl the string. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go through the peg. Okay, it goes through the actual peg. Then I feed it back through. And then in this case, I'm gonna pull. You know, there's no taper on these strings, so I'm just gonna pull, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna have about an inch again, inch to inch and a half, and then I'm gonna get the actual string, and I'm gonna wrap it around 3 times. So it's gonna go 1, 2, and that's the third one. The third one I hold it, and then I do the same thing. I'm gonna wrap it around. I'm gonna wrap, and I'm actually holding it. I'm pulling the string. I'm pulling, and I'm winding. As I do both together, it just makes it again even, and it just gets any unnecessary motion of the string. When you have a metal string, or this one is obviously wrapped with a metal wrapping, they have minds of their own. So next thing I know, they could go in a particular direction. Pulling the actual ends of it sort of keeps it in place. Okay, so this is it. This is the way the strings are placed on your guitar, just like a standard guitar. Then these I wrap underneath. As I put the rest of the strings on, I will wrap or put the ends underneath the strings, basically to keep it from touching the soundboard. If it vibrates, I know if you hear it and the strings there, it makes a snare sound. We don't want that. But let me show you one that I've already finished. And these have the actual, everything has been installed. And so so now here's where we actually have all the strings installed. This particular one worked good with the low end being on the saddle, or the heavy gauge on the saddle, and it just worked fine. It was just some guitar that I had laying around. It could be like yours. And then I show you where I go underneath, just underneath the wrapping. And so now I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna actually cut it. You can cut it with whatever you want. I use one of these big cutters. So I like it because you can actually cut pretty close to the string. So there, it's cut. So now I have it pretty clean, and nothing is touching the actual soundboard. So that's what we want. We don't want anything to vibrate on there. Okay, so and these are nice to have. They're sort of oversized fingernail clippers. I use them. You don't have to use them. So there it is. This is the Villela lower octave string installed on a standard guitar. And this is what it sounds like. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to just contact me through my website. And but it's an easy installation, and hope this explains a little of how to install it. Thank you.